Welcome to, hey, did you see this one for the special Halloween edition, Spooky Pumpkin? This is the special pumpkin episode where we talk about a man who stabs ladies while pumpkins are in the background, which is pretty much what this movie is. This is a movie about a man in a mask stabbing ladies while pumpkins are in the background, and I fight for my life to stay awake between the stabbings.
There is at least one guy stabbed. He's not sexist.
No, and he's arguably the best kill is the dude.
Yeah.
So maybe he is sexist. Maybe it brings it back around to sexism because the best kill.
It's just regular sexism at that point.
Yeah, he's just a full sexist.
Maybe it's because never mind. Maybe it's because of sex.
I mean, there's something to be said that this is like the first sort of the first movie that kind of like set the mold for what these types of movies are, right?
This is the Jaws of slash. This is to Jaws is to blockbusters as this is to slasher films. This kind of created the genre. It's the blueprint. Horror movies this didn't really took off from here because even Amityville horror and Poltergeist and Jason, of course, and there's another movie I wanted to mention, but they all happen after this. Chucky, Chunky, Fred,
Chucky and Frederick.
they all kind of get rolling after this. So this is our. I fucking forgot to put the tag at the top, so I'm gonna pin. I'm gonna pin the name.
Or is it too late?
It is too late at this point. Too late, boyos.
Whoops.
Wheezy F Baby is in the building.
Hello, Wheezy F Baby. Thank you for coming and leaving immediately.
Because every time someone joins, we're talking about how we forgot to pin the title.
Yeah, it's the best part of the show where I talk about the problems that I had and the technical difficulties. So what I realized, yes, I mean I did set up the whole chat. What I learned from this movie is we should have watched, even though we did this because Halloween is a week from today or less than a week from today, we should have done this movie first because it is the prototype for the rest of the movies. It's fucking boring, and there's not a whole lot to talk about after we've talked about the other kings of slasher films.
I mean, we can talk about
John. A few things to talk about.
Yeah.
Best filmmakers who ever graced the silver screen.
That's true. And the best part about this movie, I thought, was throughout the third act or watching the original thing. So, you know.
What?
I mean, rewatching a lot of John Carpenter, and this isn't even his first movie, right? And it's not even like it's I think his third movie. I want to say, but like he made Assault on Precinct 13 before this, and that movie is much more entertaining. But that's because it's like almost like a Quentin Tarantino level bloodbath, and like children get shot and stuff, and you're like, oh my god.
We'll have to do a John Carpenter month because I want to talk about The Thing more than I want to talk about this movie. I'll tell you that much. I don't mean to dog on it so hard, but like we do start the show, we usually go with our history of the movie. And my history of this movie is much like the others, where the most I know about it is the iconic killer. And growing up, I always had it in my head that it was like the scariest shit. But you watch Friday the 13th, and it's a hilarious, almost parody of this movie. And you watch Chucky and Freddy, and they seem like they take this idea and they genre bend. It's closer. Those movies are closer to genre benders than being straight slashers. And then you go back to where it all began. You get to the roots, and you have the intensity of this movie is really in how menacing Michael Myers is, and how a lot of the horror comes from him stalking. What's her name? Linda. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Well,
Lori.
Linda's one of them. There's Lori, Linda, and Annie.
And Annie. The date, it kind of had that vibe that I got from Midsummer, which it's all horror, but it all takes place in the daytime. The unsettlingness, this is what I knew of the movie, is that there was a lot of daytime shots, and there's a lot of blink if and you'll miss it Mike Myers bits. Now, if I had to watch this as a kid, I don't think I would have been that scared of it. The actual killing bits are barely bloody. There's
there's no blood in this movie.
There's more nudity than blood, weirdly enough. And that's basically my history. Kalen, I know Steve's chomping at the bit to get his words in, so I'll let Kalen, you give her. What's your history with this movie?
So I don't have the nostalgic value to this one either, as I mentioned with the other ones. I introduced myself to these movies about a year ago, and I mentioned this on one of the previous ones, that they kind of become more of a comedy, especially as the series go on. This one definitely was a lot more tame as far as the killings and that sort of thing. And I think that's where this one kind of differs from Friday, where they chose to put their money, the production of this one feels a lot higher quality than Friday.
Yes, agreed.
But I think that's because Friday spent most of their money on the gore and the effects and trying to get those those scares and whatnot. So you don't really see too much, which is fine. It gives you that unsettling kind of especially if it's dark. Imagine being a drive-in movie theater late at night watching this with some significant other or whatever. But I did find the production to be pretty good.
I mean, there's a reason for that, actually. This movie had a very low budget. So when you say that they spent the majority of their money on Jason, on gore and stuff, that movie also had a really low budget. This movie, its budget was $300,000, and that was even at the time, very low. This came out right around Jaws, which was $20 million. But they spent the majority of their money on the cameras for this, which is why it looks so good.
It looks beautiful.
They rented. It's basically like a Steadicam, which allows you to sort of.
Didn't they start it? Weren't they the first ones to use that camera?
I don't think that they were the first ones to use it, but they were definitely early adopters of it, and they realized that they could make a movie look more professional using this sort of new Steadicam technology. And it immediately gives the image quality, because you're tracking somebody and it doesn't look like a handheld camera. It looks like you're following them on a dolly, which to the untrained eye, you immediately associate a smooth shot with quality over a jittery shot. I like you guys. I don't have a huge amount of nostalgia for the Halloween franchise in general. I do like it, and there are other installations within the franchise that I do enjoy, but I don't know. I never have enjoyed the lineage of storytelling in terms of Michael Myers in general. I always have just been so what is the timeline here? And I know that they've done reboots and soft reboots and cancellations of this is a sequel to this movie, but it cancels out these movies. So watch it like you're watching a sequel to Halloween 2, but ignore Halloween 4 to 8. And now it's imagine this lady just went crazy and Halloween H2O doesn't exist, and she just locked herself in her house for 40 years or whatever. And I think I've seen all of them. I'm pretty sure I've seen every single one, including the Rob Zombie remakes, which I saw in theaters. I remember thinking the first one was all right, but it's they did a lot of let's explain why Michael Myers is crazy, and the explanation is Rob Zombie, I think, had a kind of a rough childhood, so he's let's just make them extreme caricatures of white trash.
Is the remake the Rob Zombie reboot is the one where the kid's in the mental hospital and the woman puts down a bunch of masks and is which mask do you want to wear? Or is that the Friday the 13th reboot?
I I don't remember. I know that Friday the 13th reboot does not have Jason Voorhees in any kind of mental institution whatsoever.
Okay.
But in Halloween, that sounds familiar. I do remember him sitting across from somebody and there is a mask on the table, but I don't think there's like a bunch of them that he's like, I'll choose this one as my
Maybe that's what I was like channel surfing, and that was back before, like when that movie came out, I had never sat and watched a whole horror movie to that point, and I know that was probably 2011.
Yeah,
so,
those remakes came out about 10 years ago, I think, but
yeah.
I didn't see them when I was in high school or earlier, obviously, because they hadn't come out yet. But I remember thinking the first one was all right, and then the second one I was just like, oh, this is just like uncomfortably gory, and like the deaths are really drawn out to the point that it's like you're just watching someone get tortured, basically, and you're like, I'm not entertained by this. I'm more just like disturbed that they didn't cut this down a little bit. Show these characters some mercy, Michael Myers. But yeah, like you guys, I find the making of this movie more interesting than the movie itself. A lot of stuff had to happen for it to get made, especially the idea that like it was only his third movie, and he had the foresight enough to be like, if we're gonna make this, we need to spend like almost an entire third of our entire budget on making it just look good and hire a good cinematographer to make that happen. Like have the technology and the person who knows how to wield it. And it's Dean Cundey, which we've already done a few movies that he's shot, but primarily he's done Jaws. He worked on Jurassic Park. He's done a lot of Robert Zemeckis movies, Spielberg movies, and Clive Barker movies. But he's basically one of like the legendary cinematographers of Hollywood. Even though he also does stuff like Jack and Jill, like. Yeah, but he just seems like he just takes jobs that he's like, yeah, I can shoot that. That's fine. He's not he's not precious about the movies that he works on or the television shows that he works on. But he's going to be doing a couple episodes of the Boba Fett show next year, so I'm pretty excited to see that.
The cinematography for Jack and Jill does look like a big budget movie, to be fair, even though it's a shitty Adam Sandler, he plays himself and his sister movie, and Al Pacino's yelling about Dunkin' Donuts for a payday. But this film has an interesting plot that it was only an hour and a half, but this could have been a nice 80-minute movie. There's a scene that really bugged me where Annie goes out to she spills some shit on herself, and then she goes out to do laundry, and then you just see Michael kind of stalking her, and he has 30 opportunities to kill her, and then she she gets locked in, and then she's banging on the door, and then the other girl's little sister.
Herself.
Yeah.
Did you see her lock it herself?
I don't know what happened there. Mike Myers has a thing with doors in this movie. It's a thing with fucking around with doors the whole time. So she gets locked in the room, and then it cuts to her little sister who's just watching the thing casually on Halloween. This little girl is fucking this. I want to see a movie about this little girl in 10 years who becomes Michael Myers because she's traumatized by fucking horror movies. She goes out to find Annie. Annie's stuck in the window in a help me stepbrother kind of a porn way, which was really fucking weird. What was the point of that? Why didn't Mike at that point just fucking decapitate her or something? I don't think that's his style. I guess he likes to strangle people.
I think that
and then cuff and then stab them.
Yeah, like I said in the
after fucking around with the door.
Yeah, I think that he likes to, like a cat. He likes to stalk them and then scare them and then make sure they're very scared and then slowly kill them. He doesn't do Jason style kills where he just pops in and decapitation. Jason is a monster who kills. Michael is a predator who likes to stalk and enjoy killing. And then
he also moves a bit like a zombie. He kind of has a zombie vibe. I know I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but in the end, when you think he's dead and he gets back up, he gets up like the way zombies get back up after they're not quite dead. And I want to know,
Did you think he had good posture?
Yes, he had very good posture.
Pretty good, yeah. I mean, he was standing up straight. He's very tall. He's like probably 6'4". And then she dies. She doesn't even die till like way later when she's in a car and fucking Mike Myers is in the backseat. My point is like that whole segment could have just been cut out of the movie and nobody would even know. You know what I mean? That could have been 10 minutes that is just unnecessary and could have just tightened things up. And there was a lot of that where you're just watching somebody walk around, which I found Friday the 13th had that problem too, where it's like either fill this with like none of these movies had a point really. They didn't have like a story that had like there wasn't like a story arc happening while the killer's killing. They tried to do it a little bit in this movie with the doctor and the cop side story, but the doctor and the cop side story kind of came off as like the worst buddy cop movie you've ever seen, where the doctor clearly was like, "This is my."
For like 40 minutes of the movie, and he's like, "You kids, get out of here!"
Yeah, just hiding it like behind a bush. He's like, "Hey, I am the killer. You guys, get out of here!" And then
Dr. Loomis becomes more insane as the movies go on. Like ironically, like he's constantly yelling about how Michael Myers is insane. He has no soul, and he's a monster. But like slowly, Loomis starts to become more insane, obsessed with Michael Myers. His morality kind of like wanes on the decisions he's making. Like at one point, he takes like a child hostage. And he's like, "Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. I just need to sacrifice you to the evil."
Well, maybe you can answer this question for me, that because I was kind of hung up on this. There's a scene where he's talking to a guy, and then it slowly zooms out, and there's like a dead person in the bushes. Is Dr. Loomis doing kills too?
No, that was Michael Myers getting clothes. So he stole his car, but he was wearing like scrubs or whatever. And then I don't know why he didn't change vehicles as well, but that's where he got his jumpsuit, his coveralls or whatever.
Oh, from the work. He was like a workman. Okay, and I kind of missed. Yeah, I zoned out for a second and missed that.
I was watching it. And I'm like, who's this person in like the hospital gown? And then I was like, oh wait, that's Michael Myers. Because like in my brain, all Michael Myers movies start and he's already got the mask and the jumpsuit on.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wait, no, he has to get that stuff first.
Well, I never knew that he was born extremely blonde, and then by the time he's 16 years later, he has the blackest hair, like black as my beard, and he has super strength, which they show a few times. He punches right through a door at one point. There's that glass window, like he jumps on top of the car at the beginning to terrorize that woman and get the car, but he like slaps the glass like that, and the whole thing like spiderweb shatters.
Yeah,
which was like you need the crazy leverage to be able to do that, and then he's able to like
slash a wrench.
Yeah. So
you can actually see the wrench in the palm of his hand. Like if you like, you can like see it. But yeah,
okay.
That was supposed to be like he's hitting it with a wrench. I think they just used that to actually shatter the glass, but you can like see it in his hand.
Yeah. Practical effects.
But yeah, I think he's just. Because he like picks a guy up by his throat and pins him into the wall with a bunch of knives, which is like I think he's just supposed to be.
He might be strong, but how is a knife strong enough to hold the person?
That was my next point. He pins a guy to the wall.
Multiple knives. He had like 4 or 5 knives stuck into that guy's chest.
Yeah, when you see him later, but at that point he puts him up against the wall and he takes that giant butcher knife that's like 12 inches and fucking just pins him to the wall with one knife.
Well, he's super strong. He's an immortal killer. Okay, let's keep questioning this physical extremity instead of the fact that after this he keeps getting killed and coming back to life.
No, he's cool.
Supernatural thing, guys.
He takes a wire hanger to the eye, and he's like, "That's fine." That sucks. when he takes when the mask gets pulled off at the end, and then he puts it back on, he's also got like the face makeup also like buckles when he's pulling the mask over it, and it fucks up. I think it fucks up his like weird like stabbed eye makeup.
Was he supposed to have a messed up eye, or is that just because he got stabbed in it?
I think that was because he got stabbed.
Yeah, okay.
Just remember, they spent a third of their budget on the cameras for this, so there was a lot of corner cutting in this movie. Pretty sure those masks were $1 each. Like, they literally just went and bought the cheapest mask they could and did like a fashion show, being like, "Which one is the scariest?" And they're like, "Let's make this
the mask,
good old Captain Kirk."
Yeah, the mask is very classically William Shatner.
Yes, but the way that they modified it was they shaved the eyebrows off. They cut the eyes, because like usually it would just be pinholes for you to see through. They cut those eyes all the way out, and then they shaved the sideburns. They spray painted the hair darker, and then they spray painted the face industrial white or something. I can't remember what the exact color was, but it was like a harsh white.
So in universe, is that mask a thing that you can buy, or did Mike Myers from Austin Powers, did Michael Myers spend all of his time in the asylum watching Captain Kirk, and then he was like, went out and bought a Captain Kirk mask specifically?
It'd be great if when Michael Myers murdered people, he just did like those old Star Trek like double punches. Like,
yeah. Axe handle.
Yeah. That would have been a great story beat to continue on through all films. Yeah. Now, like I said, like the movie, the pacing is a little bit dated. Like I can understand why this movie, being the first of its kind, would be like, impressive and spread the way it did. Also, they kept releasing it year after year until they made the sequel. Like because its name is literally Halloween, they're like, let's just release Halloween every year until we have.
Perfect.
That's pretty genius, because sequels weren't really a thing outside of exploitation films at this point.
Yeah, and I do believe that just even domestically alone, the amount of money that it made was something like $47 million compared to the $300,000 that they spent on it. So it made a lot of money compared to what they spent on it, which is why Jason got made. The reason that Jason got made, or Friday the 13th got made, was because of the insane success of this movie. And because of that,
making money.
You get Freddy, you get Chucky, you get all of them, because they know they can take these little small slasher ideas and not have to spend millions of dollars on getting screenwriters to like polish something, because they're like, I don't know, a bunch of horny teenagers get murdered by a guy in a mask. Just come up with a better setting and some different kill tactics.
So I'm sure that
Halloween on a bus.
Halloween in space. That never happened, but it's natural. If they were still making, if Halloween H2O hadn't been what I assume somewhat serious, that should have been the one that was in space. But
I think that one was out of college.
They're always very serious.
Yeah.
Except for Season of the Witch, which has nothing to do with Michael Myers, and it's like a crazy Irish man hates children in Halloween, and he like makes masks that turn children into pumpkin heads that explode into bugs.
Yeah, because at one point, has John Carpenter been attached to every single movie?
No,
was he only attached to the first one?
Issue, right?
I believe he came back for the fourth one, I think, and then he's done the music for a lot of them. He actually did the music for not the most recent one, but the one before that. He did all the music for that.
So the thing about Season of the Witch is, as I understand it, they wanted to make the Halloween franchise into an anthology series.
Yeah. Which
their first outing was like the worst movie ever, let alone the worst Halloween movie.
I actually don't mind that movie. What they should have done, though, is do that on the sequel, the second movie, because then they could have kept doing it and people would have understood. But it's because they made 2 Michael Myers movies, and then the third one, they're like, now it's not Michael Myers anymore. People were like, you tricked us. You fucking tricked us. You can't just do that.
So does it even happen in the same neighborhood or anything?
What if it's its own
literally
thing?
has nothing to do. It might be like a Stephen King style thing where it's like some like a certain character might be referenced or a certain location might be referenced, but I actually have no idea, and I don't recall that being the case. As far as I know, they're just completely detached from one another.
They should make a sequel to that movie and call it Halloween 3-2 Season of the Witch again. Electric Boogaloo.
Hypercube. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, again, I think that just how this movie was made is more interesting than the actual movie itself, and I don't have a lot to say about the actual like plot. I guess I mentioned the music briefly because John Carpenter, he got paid only $10,000 for this movie, but he also did. He was a producer, he was a director, he was the composer for all the music, and I think he did a couple other things that other people would have been paid for. He took a very small paycheck and did all these other things himself. And, you know, nowadays, I don't know, John Carpenter is like essentially retired from filmmaking. He hasn't made any.
He just makes music now, right?
He makes a lot of music and he plays a lot of Fortnite and he watches basketball. Cool. He's like an old man who loves playing video games, watching basketball, and just doing concerts. But I think that he's also said that he's not like retired. He has lots of ideas. It's just people won't give him money. But that's also been the case for his entire career.
What?
He's always been undercut in terms of the budgets that he wants, and he has ideas, but he never gets the budget that he wants to make the movies that he wants to make. That being said, some of his
hasn't he proved himself enough?
Not necessarily, because a lot of his movies have lost so much money. I mean, most of his movies become cult classics. Like The Thing was not well received.
No, the movie was like not only a remake, but it was also ahead of its time when it came out. So people didn't want to watch. People didn't want to watch a movie about a bunch of people stuck in a room when that came out.
Yeah, but also the success of this movie is what led to him essentially getting all these other movies made afterwards, but he never got the budget that he wanted for any of them, right? So, like, he makes Big Trouble in Little China, he makes The Thing, he makes They Live. All of those movies are very well known and liked and respected today, and people consider them to be masterpieces of filmmaking, but it still wasn't rewarding him with, like, unlimited budgets. Like people like Spielberg will just walk in and be like, I need $500 million. And they're like, here you go, Mr. Spielberg. See you when the payday rolls in. But it's because all of the money that he would get for these movies, it would never make enough money to warrant it as a success at the time. I mean, over the lifetime of Big Trouble in Little China, like through merchandising and like, you know, DVD sales and all that kind of stuff, today it's probably made lots and lots of money. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and that's why he's kind of always had this hard time getting the movies that he wants to make for the amount of money that he thinks that he needs to make them. So he's always had to like be a weird creative workaround director, where he's like, how can we accomplish this for the shitty amount of money they're giving us?
Maybe if he's alive in 7 years still, he can make Halloween H50.
Weird
And it could be about a town where all the police are Michael Myers.
All on black.
I want to weirdo ideas he has. Like just think about, when's the last time you watched They Live? Like, it's such a weird movie.
I don't think I've ever sat through all of They Live. That's the one with Roddy Piper, right?
Yeah, and Keith
with the glasses.
Yes, yeah, and it's like
that one is ahead of its time.
The conceit.
The advertising and the reptile, or
I mean, he was doing a direct commentary of what was going on at the time the movie was made as well. I think what you should say is that the message that he was saying in the 80s when the movie was made is just as relevant today as it was back then.
Which is scary.
And it's because nothing in our world is ever going to change. We're all being by the media, and we will forever.
George Orwell wrote 1984, and then around 1984, the world became like 1984. It's less dystopian than in the story, but we get to now, and nothing like this is like government in North America has been the same for 40 years. Things don't change. Wars keep happening. The economy gets better and it gets worse. Sometimes it gets way worse. Sometimes it gets slightly better. But there's still always going to be people in power who have clandestine motives, And I'm going to want to go ahead and watch They Live now because I can't believe I haven't seen it.
It is enjoyable as well. Like, it is so funny. Roddy Piper is like I'm surprised that he didn't get more like he could have been like a Kurt Russell, or he could have been like for Batista nowadays. Like if he had hit a couple more times in a row, I think he would have kind of.
He only has They Live, I think, another, like he's in something else from like the 80s, and then nothing, and then he does that couple episodes of It's Always Sunny and still has great acting chops.
Yeah, no, I was surprised because I hadn't seen the movie since I was a kid, so I just assumed I was going to watch it and he was going to be a terrible actor, and I just wouldn't have seen it back when I was being like so impressed by like the conceit, being like, wow, aliens, ooh, cool glasses. But I was watching it and I was like, he's actually killing it. Like he's doing a good job. Like I especially when he's acting directly across from someone like Keith David, who's one of like the greatest actors to ever live. Yeah, I was surprised. But, you know, again, if you just look at his filmography, it's like The Thing, like there's never really been another movie like that made again. It's one of those movies that even today, like I'll watch it and it still just makes me so physically uncomfortable, not just in terms of the crazy visual effects that are going on, but just the idea of like being in an isolated area,
especially the first time.
Know well and don't know if it's actually.
It's a bit of a twist movie where after you've seen it once, it kind of wears off. But the first time I saw that and I didn't know what was going to happen, I found it to be really unsettling. And then in subsequent views, you just find little things, you find little ways to like connect it all together, and it just becomes like a good movie that's entertaining to watch in the way that like a television show that has callbacks is entertaining to watch, where there's a beat, there's story beats going through it you don't see on the first watch. Yeah. This movie, however, Halloween, does not have that. It's the most straightforward story ever, and I want to go back and touch on the fact that this movie is literally a blueprint for horror movies. Like it doesn't change or do anything different because it is the original one. And for that, I'm going to end up putting my rating higher than I want to, because this is a movie that's, you know, you celebrate a movie like this. The unfortunate thing about it is you watch it in 2021 with nearly 50 years in between, 50 years of cinema in between. And it's just not that enjoyable of a watch, and it's especially not that enjoyable if you don't have the nostalgia that you get when you watch, even without seeing Friday the 13th, Freddy, or seeing Chucky. I had the nostalgia for those characters because I was so afraid of those characters as a kid. I've never really been afraid of like the Mike Myers slasher. It takes up a different place in my head. It's so straightforward, you know?
Yeah, which is kind of the odd thing about it, because I feel the same way, where I was always more scared of Chucky. Freddy was always creepy. Jason was always kind of
more menacing almost, because he's so brutal.
But when you look at the movies and the evolution of all of these franchises, I was still more scared of Chucky when I was in my high school years than I was of Jason or of Michael Myers. But Michael Myers is the only one that is meant to be intimidating, and everything is so serious. There is that layer of levity where people are like really playing into that tropey stuff, and it remains that way. Even like the reboots, the Rob Zombie reboots, like it's so serious. Like everything is so deadpan. And like the levity of something like Chucky or Freddy does not exist. And then that different type of where it's like the ridiculousness of the over-the-top kills of Friday the 13th. Like that doesn't even exist.
No, it's over-the-top deaths in this one. That one girl, the blonde who dies after the guy gets stabbed to the wall. So Michael Myers walks in with the sheet on like he's just a ghost with the guy's glasses on, which is kind of ingenious for this like brainless killer. And then this was another example of a shot that went on too long, where he's just standing there and she's just like, okay, did you bring that beer? All right, what are you gonna do now? Hey, what are you doing? It's like a video game cutscene where the guy's not pressing the like button to continue the scene, and then when he's choking her out, she like rolls her eyes in this really comedic way, and then when Jamie Lee Curtis is going through the house finding all the bodies, and they show her, she's still got that ridiculous rolled in the back of her head, like basically tongue out, like.
She's doing like an upward cross eye. Yeah,
That was the worst thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
I have a question. When they're smoking weed in the car, why do they pull up to her dad? Why don't they just? Why is that an issue? Just keep driving. Drive somewhere else. I don't get it.
Pull around the corner and just turn down the "Don't Fear the Reaper." I actually made a note that was like, smoking weed and listening to Don't Fear the Reaper, awesome. But the thing about it is, they're going to see her cop dad. It's the middle of the fucking day. It seems like it's Laurie's first time smoking weed, and they're driving. Like, what? All of this is like, what the fuck is Michael Myers' motive?
He was returning to his home. That's the one thing he was doing. And I think that the idea behind Michael Myers as a character, like I said before, is that he enjoys killing in the way that an animal hunts its prey. Like, I think there are like very few actual animals in the wild that hunt for fun, but they do exist, and some of them are humans.
I think wolves are one.
Yeah, most of the animals only hunt because they need to eat, but there are a few that hunt for, sport.
House cats hunt for sport.
So that's why I was comparing him to a cat before, is because he kind of moves in a rigid human cat-like way, but he also plays with his prey in a way that the other familiar killers of this month do not. Chucky's just an asshole. Jason is a Terminator, basically. Freddy he takes pleasure in like torturing you emotionally in your dreams, but like he's also just trying to get as creative as he can with it. Whereas Michael Myers is just like, he just likes watching you be in pain, basically.
But the reason why I asked that is because in this movie he did kill. Well, okay, he killed the final kill count. I had at 7 and a dog, I think.
Yeah, he kills.
Yeah, so he kills one regular dude, but that's to get his costume. But then he stalks Laurie, and it seems like he has some connection to Laurie. There's something to do with her and the house, because she drops off keys at the house at the beginning.
Yeah, her dad's selling it or something. He's like a realtor.
So is he going after her because of that? Because there is some sort of arc between them, because the arc can't just be that they're telegraphing for fucking an hour and a half that she's going to be the only one that can stop this guy. Because she's the only smart person in this town that has the wherewithal to like try fighting back. Because nobody tries to fight back. Everybody just stands there like, oh, oh.
She's also not that smart because she keeps dropping the knife. And that's one of the reasons that like I was like, come on, don't throw the knife away. Like, she looks at it like she's never seen a knife before. It's like, oh. But then she does that.
Well, yeah, after she does it, she's like, oh.
Yeah, it's like, stop dropping it, man. But, it's the template, and there's a reason that that's a trope that exists. Like when, in like Scary Movie, when people are doing really dumb shit, they're just aping on the template created by Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot to complain about for sure, but I think that, like you said before, we have to give it a pass, and I think that this is the type of movie that you do get more enjoyment out of if all three of us were to be sitting in a room having some drinks and watching it together, and not sitting there by ourselves analyzing it.
Well, my wife came into the room while I was watching it, and she has never really watched a horror movie, and she literally sat down, and it was one of the like spookier parts, and she just fell asleep immediately. She just put her, like, she snuggled up to me, like, oh, we're watching a horror movie. Ooh, this is spooky. And then I kept watching the movie, and then I had to lean forward to take a couple notes, and then I heard
Right.
a little tiny snore, and I was like, yeah, I wish I could take a little snore nap during this thing. But that said, like, there are a lot of positives. You know, it created the genre, but also watching Michael Myers do his thing up until the kills could have been gorier, but they didn't have that kind of, like, gore didn't exist like that in movies in the 70s, really. They didn't have those effects yet. You had stab, stab, stab motion, and then you look at the person and they've got, like, fake blood on them like that, the first kill of the movie. And I thought that his motive was going to be women or you know, people like teens who are doing the sex.
Promiscuous.
But he kills his sister. Yeah, promiscuity, like, kind of like Jason.
I really do think that there is nothing to look into it. That's what the Loomis character is there for, is for him to be like, there's nothing behind his eyes but pure evil. And, like, even when he escapes in the car, he's like, he's gone from here. The evil is gone from here. Like, he's just yelling that he's evil the whole time, and that is just for our benefit to be like, okay, he's literally just an evil person who likes killing people, and he's trying to go home. And then
why doesn't he kill everyone though? If that's the case,
because I think that maybe he killed a ton more people that we don't know about. And
or the meme that I always see every year on Twitter, somebody always says, "Why they know he's coming? Why don't they leave the little town, the little cul-de-sac where he always tortures every year?"
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's also, like, the new movie, I think, is getting pretty panned for that exact reason, where it's like the whole town is like, he's coming back, and this time we're going to be ready for him. It's like, okay, call in the army, maybe? Like,
yeah. They
years.
literally nuked Jason, or they carpet bombed Jason at one point, and he died for a little while because of it, so he could, you know, he went to hell and then, you know, became a worm, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. And he went to space and became a cop.
he turned from a Terminator into a RoboCop.
What?
Did you guys catch the part where I think it was Linda's boyfriend Bob was talking about, first we rip your clothes off, then you rip my clothes off, then we rip Lindsay's clothes off?
Yeah, Lindsay's the little girl.
I'm like, what the?
That one I heard, and I just helped. My brain was just like, oh, he means Jamie Lee Curtis's character. Yeah, it's the only way. I don't.
I had to rewind it. Like, I watched this movie a few times the past few days. Because, like, first I watched it to, like, watch it.
Yeah.
Then I watched it to, like, take notes.
Bad optics, but it's a different time, I guess. I don't know.
But that's even, like, there's one, it's saying calling somebody the F slur or the R word is one thing, but, like, that's not, it's like violently pedophilic.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say or comment other than gross.
I bet that's, like, the one joke in the whole. Well, their whole bit is funny. Like the couple's whole, they're drinking and driving and fucking and trying to bang and being real gross and weird.
Was he one of the first hipsters? Do you think those glasses were real?
He seemed like a jock stoner kind of hybrid. So yeah,
a stone cold jockster.
Yeah. So, guys, with that, we have about 12 minutes left. Let's try to not drag this one out because obviously we don't have a whole lot to say. Steve, did you have anything else John Carpenter related you wanted to say before we talk about our final thoughts and ratings, etc.?
I would say that when you are watching a John Carpenter movie, you should look at the beginning to see if he did compose the music for it, because he always has a very particular sound to his movies. And you get stuff like The Thing, where what's his name? Morricone, the guy who does, like, a lot of Tarantino soundtracks, and he also.
So John Carpenter basically spearheaded new retro wave musical movement. A lot of people emulating his style, notably Kavinsky emulating his style or remixing music in his style. And I fully believe that this movie has that sound that you hear, the main do 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 do. That's also basically the fucking Walking Dead theme. It's been used recently a lot in different genres of music, and I think John Carpenter will be remembered as a pioneer of the new retro wave musical genre. And if you've never listened to any new retro wave, start with Kavinsky, and then there's lots of it. If you look up new retro wave on YouTube, you'll find a lot of it. I listen to it all the time. I fucking love it. There's one artist primarily on YouTube that Steve, you've heard a lot of it because it's in those hilarious machinima videos. There's that one with the guy with the saws. There's like a saw on the table and he's cutting wood. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Overhawk or Thunderhawk or something like that is the artist.
Moose, isn't it? Isn't it something Moose? Oh my god.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a terrible segment. But what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that he has a particular style, but he also has a very different tone and theme to his movie. So something like They Live, all of his soundtracks have this sort of like droning, repetitive music, but it's all very particular and it's all very appropriate for the theme of every movie that it's in. And one thing that I noticed when I was rewatching They Live is the music is like this one sort of like guitar riff that's like dum, 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 like goes through the whole movie, and it's like very it's almost like a metronome going back and forth, and then you start to realize that like you forget that it's even there, and you're like, oh my god, I'm being hypnotized by this music, just like all of these human beings are being hypnotized by the advertisements. This is genius.
Layers on layers on layers.
Yeah, I think that would be like, other than his films, which are great, not all of them, kind of start to fall off after Mouth of Madness, I think. But, you know, he has so many good ones that I think it's worth checking them all out. But if we want to go with like, final thoughts,
I'm gonna find They Live and probably watch it this week.
I think it's
I'm pretty sure you can YouTube the whole thing. I'm pretty sure the whole thing's on YouTube for free.
Sweet.
I think that's
how I watched. That's how I watched Ghost Dog.
Yeah, maybe you were just watching the fight scene. You know where they fight.
No, I watched.
Great.
I think I was. I was on vacation somewhere, and I was on YouTube, and I just YouTubed full movies, and that one came up, and I was like, "What's this?" And then I was like, "Holy shit, this is amazing!" Because it's so applicable or relative or whatever.
That would be. I find it hard to believe, but I'm not gonna say you're wrong. Is it in chunks or is it like a full movie?
No, it's full thing. I think E.T. was also on there.
Maybe you were in like a region where they don't have laws.
That might have been it.
There are a lot of movies on YouTube. They just have ads.
Right. Yeah, I think I watched it on Amazon. So if you have Amazon, it's on there. I'm pretty sure.
Cool.
But
movie title shout out. I have two. There's like 2 minutes and 20 seconds in, but it's from a song that's playing, some sort of Halloween song.
Oh,
and then
okay.
There's 25 minutes, 18 seconds in, when the officer says it. Like everyone deserves one good scare on Halloween.
Okay, I missed them saying Halloween in this movie. The only one that I caught was it just says Halloween on the screen to say what day it is, but we kind of talked about that last week and said maybe that's not what we're looking for. But I thought at the end, I watched this whole movie and I thought that they didn't say Halloween in this movie once, but I guess the cop says it.
He says, yeah, everyone deserves one good scare on Halloween or something like that.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. But okay, on top of that, does that mean they only say Halloween once in this whole movie? In this movie about there are jack-o'-lanterns fucking everywhere. The
That's a
jack-o'-lantern was almost
lie.
like
There are not
another.
jack-o'-lanterns everywhere. They didn't have the budget for it. There isn't even brown leaves on the trees.
That's true. I did, but it's one of those
No.
California things again. I think.
Well, okay, so
Yeah.
what actually is that it was filmed in the summertime, so there were no leaves on the ground, so they had to get bags of leaves that from elsewhere and just like spread them out for shots where there need to be. So if you're watching Laurie's character walking down the street, you can see that there's all these leaves on the lawn right in front of her, but then like two neighbors' houses down, it's just like perfectly green lawn, and it's just like lawn clear of leaves all the way in the distance. The pumpkins, because they were out of season, they couldn't find pumpkins, so they had to. They found like a gourd or something that looks similar to a pumpkin and just painted them orange. So every pumpkin actually like a squash of some sort.
I thought there were a lot of jack-o'-lanterns in this movie. Personally,
they're technically jack-o'-lanterns. You can carve anything into a jack-o'-lantern.
That's what I meant. Like pumpkin-shaped things with faces carved into them. I thought that they did a good job with making it feel like a Halloween movie. Yeah, that was my point. Sorry, Kaylin.
Jack-o'-lantern's middle name is Oscar.
Jack Oscar Lantern?
Yeah.
That's actually hilarious. I like that. Have you ever used that in your stand-up?
Not yet, but I do want to be J. Oscar Lantern for Halloween.
J. Oscar Lantern?
Yeah.
That's fucking dope, too. All right, friends. Well, Kaylin, on that note, why don't you start us off with your final thoughts? Because I need to collect my thoughts after J. Oscar Lantern.
Fair. Okay, I got a quick question though before my final thoughts. He was 6 years old when it happened, right? When he was a kid, and then it's 15 years later. Oh, look, there's J. Oscar now, almost soon to be. But it's 15 years later, right? So, do you guys watch the credits at all?
I mean, sometimes
in
I
the
didn't
credits.
watch it.
In these credits, they say Michael Myers 6, and then Michael Myers 23. But shouldn't he be 21? Or did I miss something?
I thought it was 16 years later.
That would still be 22. But maybe they just messed up. Who knows? Could be. They didn't even have the financier in the final credits when they first made it, so they had to add that in there.
They CGI'd it with the Star Wars technology.
But I mean,
Star Wars tech?
I think maybe they just messed up it's like, in the Spider-Man movie where they like put the date in, and then the whole internet was like, that doesn't make sense in the timeline. And then the directors were like, okay, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, but they mentioned Doctor Strange in the first movie, and it's like, yeah, they meant to do that fucking 20 years ago. So are the new movies. Like, no, come on. It's Marvel.
A happy mistake.
They're doing their best.
Yeah.
But so yeah, in regards to I mentioned earlier about the production value, like Steve, you mentioned about like they put a lot of the budget went towards the cameras, and it really shows. I think it looks great. I mean, it's not overly terrifying, but I did find myself enjoying it for what it is, and also for the groundwork, like the foundation that it laid out for like everything that came after it. There wasn't really too much I can complain about it. Like it's definitely something that you could watch like every Halloween and not really get sick of. And it's kind of like a pioneer of the genre. So based on that, I'm also going to rate it a little high, and I think I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Okay, fantastic. Steve?
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about the movie itself. I think that again, if we had been watching this together, I think we probably all would have had a better experience. Just even being able to sort of rib each other during the game or during the movie and be like, oh God, pick the knife up, you idiot. Like that would probably make the experience more enjoyable for us overall. But I also mentioned a couple times throughout that I think that the story of this movie being made and the people that it introduced and grew within the industry is extremely important. And without this movie, so many other things that I love would not have been made, which isn't going to make me rate the movie itself higher. But I do think that that without this movie, we wouldn't have our Jasons, we wouldn't have our Chuckies, we wouldn't have our Freddys, and if we did, they probably would be drastically different than we know them today. But we also wouldn't have someone like John Carpenter. He wouldn't have. The success alone of this movie is the reason that his next movies get made, the ones that are some of my most favorite movies ever made, like Big Trouble in Little China and The Thing and They Live. So yeah, I think that it also, introduced the character of Michael Myers, and that the iconography attached to that is pretty relevant still today. Literally a movie came out 2 weeks ago or something with Michael Myers as the villain. So clearly he's not dead, and he probably is not done. So I think that I'm going to give this movie a 3.5 as well, based on my enjoyment. But if I had to rate it as to its relevance and importance, in terms of like its imprint that's left on the landscape of cinema, fucking 5, baby.
I gave Dirty Work a 5 for its effect on my personal self comedy growth. So that's perfectly reasonable and warranted. Now, I agree with both of you. I like what Kaylin said. I like what Steve said about the relevance of this movie. Unfortunately, I'm giving it a 3, and I'm giving it a 3 with the caveat that what you both said, it deserves a higher rating because of what it means to film. And in that case, that's where I boosted to a 3.5. But the thing is this movie was, like the other ones we watched, catalysts. It's the beginning point.
Yeah.
I want to see Michael Myers kill for the whole movie. We get his origin story, much like the Friday the 13th, much like all 4 of them. We watched 4 origin stories this month. And this one, I might have rated higher if it was the first one we watched. And the other movies would have subsequently might have been rated higher as we went. But we almost did this in a reverse way to keep it on date. And I hated this one the most because it didn't, after the shock value of something like the ending of Chucky, or the shock value of the reveal that, I have to, hit myself in the head and forget that there's no Jason in Friday the 13th, but instead it's his mom. The shock value of it was the mom the whole time. Those are much bigger milestones, much bigger moments in cinema than Mike Myers just like stalking and doing really awkward kills to people. But, you're right. It does. You do have this thing where what the movie really created is its touchstone and its lasting legacy. So I hate that I gave it such a low rating, but I was so bored. I even the most boring movies that we've done for this, like I had a hard time getting through. Like the Muppets was one. The Muppets Christmas one was one that it sticks out in my head as one that I had I really felt like got distracted a lot during. And this one, I just wanted to turn it off for the whole movie because there were these long stretches of just nothing. And I think that's because we watched these other more interesting horror movies. And the irony, of course, being that those other horror movies wouldn't exist without this movie. So I'm torn, obviously. I give it a 3. I'm not going to put the 3 in my. So I do I put up our video, and then I put up like count for the movies I've watched for the year. Once again, I'm not putting that up. I'm not going to tell people how I feel. They have to watch this to see it, because I don't feel good about only giving it a 3. And I'm with you guys. I'm with Kaylin and with the 3.5, and Steve, I'm with you on giving it a 5 for it. It's John Carpenter's significance in cinema. Unfortunately for me, I just hated this movie a lot, except for elements.
Fair, we all have to.
Well said, Jason.
I'm not giving it a 5.
Thank you.
This movie.
No, I know, but
well, I guess that ends another episode.
I mean, we came in a little bit under time this week, but that's good. And it's I feel really bad that this was so anticlimactic compared to our other episodes that felt much more grand. But I
thought it was such a good idea to end it on Halloween with Halloween, and then now we're all like, we should have probably just watched them in order of release.
Yeah, because if we ended, it would have been Freddy, right?
It would have been Chucky last.
It would have been Chucky last. I would have been stoked. I would have been like, "Whoa, this is all. It all comes down to this."
The doll is melting.
The doll melting was my favorite. It was the scariest thing of all 4 movies, I would say, because it was the most unsettling.
Well, another thing that we can look forward to, at least, is that if we do decide to revisit any of these franchises, a lot of them become a lot more creative as they go, because they're just sort of aping what's been set up. So, whether that be Halloween 2, 3, 4, 5, or the other one, we can only move up. I mean, that's not.
Yeah. So
some of them do become real shit. It's like midway through.
Well, when the CGI goes nuts in the late 90s, I'm sure any late 90s version of these movies is just a gore fest that looks like, like weird shiny blood and fucking open wounds that don't look right, and like viscera that's just like you cut somebody open and for some reason they're just like red across here, and then like just the circle for their spine, like a cartoon. Well, that said, this has been the Autumn Grimoire of Familiar Killers, or the Halloween Grimoire of Familiar Killers, and I thank everyone who watched. Up till now, last week was actually our highest viewed show, which is awesome, which means we're moving up. We've got some exciting things coming. We're going to do, in December, we're going to do a Christmas thing that you aren't ready for, fans. And November will be a very special month as well.
Christmas movies.
I'm taking over Christmas movies. Month. Yeah, next month we're going to do birthday months, and Kalen's is first, and he's taking over. So we're going to have to just wait and see what happens for that month. But I think this is going to be it for us this week. I'm going to say the thing that I always say at the end of these shows, but if you want me to stop, you have to actually comment on this video and tell me, which means you have to get this far in the video. So for Kaylin and Steve, I'm Jason.
And for Steve and Jason, I'm Kellen.
For Jason, for Kaylin, I'm Steven.
And hey, did you see this one?
Is that
did you see this one?
Oh, hey, I saw it. I did. It was me. I saw it all along.
Thanks for watching. Have a good week, and happy Halloween, you dumb fucking sons of fucking